So you were at UCLA in 1968, 69.
65 through 73.
Got it. Well, in 1969, we know what happened there. It was the Summer of Love, and you had the Vietnam War protest against Johnson. Johnson's not going to run again, and Women's Lib blew up. And all that happened, if there was a place where rebelling against society started in the U.S., then Berkeley was the Wuhan lab in 1969.
Berkeley was crazy.
Did you see it? You were there in the middle of it, and you're a young guy getting a high education. You're going to go into law. What did you see?
I didn't want to go into law. I wanted to go into physics.
Okay. Well, still, you're an incredibly smart guy and perceptive. What did you see at that time that you said, wow, if this keeps up, we're in trouble? Or if this keeps up, did you see some tipping points?
I didn't think we were going to be in trouble because it took a spin that I had not anticipated, and I only vaguely recognized at the time, and that's what Hollywood did with it. Because they had an agenda they were trying to push, and they took advantage of circumstances and did it. Now, what went on is we had civil rights, but civil rights got people used to the idea of large groups of people coming out and doing stuff. Before that, when you got large groups out, typically it had something to do with a union matter or employment or something like that.
Workers of the world unite.
Yes, and all of that. And you had these kinds of things, but you had it glamorized and you had it covered in real time by television, which was not what you had before. So the idea of a bunch of people being out somewhere carrying on because they didn't like something was publicized and put in the heads of just about everybody. So that set the stage for large-scale protest, anti-war protest and such like, because the NAM was a very unpopular war. Now, people look at stuff like the January 6th thing, where 180 people committed what 50 years ago would have been such a small blip, nobody would have paid attention to it. You had situations in D.C. 50 years ago all around the country where you got 15, 20, 30, 40,000 people breaking stuff up. You had the uprisings in the large cities where disenchanted people burnt the place down. I remember 65 August standing on a low-rise hill in Los Angeles, and I pivoted 360. And you couldn't see the sun because the smoke was so thick. It looked like being in a war zone.
This was the original Watts riots?
Right. And that kind of thing is something that today's people don't get. What they call a protest was just people got bored and came out and didn't have anything else to do with trying to get laid, you know. But nowadays, it's a sense of proportion. We lost maybe somewhere around 5,000 folk over in the sand pile over a 20-some year period. I hate it. But that used to be a weekly tally back in the 60s. See, everybody in America knew somebody that was dead from the NAM. Mm-hmm. And we had people around that were vigorous, young, and they had been in Korea, and some people that were not even getting too gray had been in World War II, and then the gray-haired folk had been in World War I. So there was a great deal of difference about what folk felt they were entitled to then, and then you were feeling entitled to the opportunity to do for yourself. Now people have this idea that the entitlement is somebody doing it for you, cradle to grave, remaining in the cradle.
You make a great point about demonstrations. I mean, you compare January 6th to Kent State. Kent State demonstrations got so bad and so rowdy, they called the National Guard. shot 4 unarmed students and broke it up. I mean,
They shot more than 4 unarmed students, but that's how many died.
yeah. And you look at January 6th and you look at the 60s, you look at 1968 after in Detroit, the convention's on the inside and there's a mass demonstration, extremely violent on the outside. And it's not people without opinion, but it was so different.
Yeah. You got 28,000 people involved in that thing in Chicago in 1968 with the Democratic Convention. I remember at UCLA where we had a student population, 65,000 full-time students, and there were some occasions when LAPD swept through there and there were just continuous riots going on over hours in this complex with 60-some thousand people being there. So what people call a big upset now, we just looked at, what else is new? What happened in the news, Well, I mean, really, what happened was interesting.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.